I can do it without that.
He's a neophyte.
No, I think it's on.
Pyro and novice beginner. Sorry, Mr. MC, go ahead.
No.
No.
I don't know, about a month ago, Dick stopped in my office and told me about this event and asked me if I'd get up and say a few words. I said, sure, no problem. Then I got thinking about it about a week ago. I said, gee, what am I going to say? And I thought about it. I met Art probably 30 years ago when I started selling real estate, and Barbara, his wife. And I thought about a lot of things we did in the real estate business. We could talk about those things, but that board, most of the room did that. So I said, I won't do that. And then I just started thinking about Art Smith and different things that he had done. And when I went to work for Art, I honestly didn't know him. I just knew Art Smith, and I'd seen Art Smith real estate signs around. I didn't know anything about his athletic background or anything else like that. My father told me, though, that he was a real good athlete. They'd gone to high school together. And as I started selling real estate, more and more people were telling me different things about Art. And I found out that he was an accomplished athlete in most any sport he played: football, baseball, golf. In later years, my father's next door neighbor, Tony Walsh, used to golf with Art out at the Papuda Club. And he'd tell me all about Art and how good he was and how bad he was. But anyway, I found out about the athletic things. And then I found out that he was a school teacher. And he was a coach, and everything went real well at Darren High. I think we were at Fulton too, Art? I'm not sure. But then I found out that he was also the president at SMVTI, and he put the place on the map. And I learned all these things about Arthur from other people, and I would just constantly find out more things about Art. He was the president of the Lions Club, and he was a hunter, and he did a lot of different things. And the one thing I learned from talking to everybody about Art Smith, when everybody told me anything about Art Smith, it was always complimentary. I never in all those years had anybody say anything bad over Art Smith. So it's just been a pleasure to know him, to work with him, and hope I get to see him for many more years. Thank you.
And I've still got the marks right here to prove it. The marks of his knees. Yeah, I played for Deering, and Art, my name's Ed Valente. I played for Deering, and Art happened to be my blocking assignment when we were on offense. He played safety, and he saw me coming. After about the first 3 or 4 times, he knew what I was going to do, and so he was ready. He had those knees right there, and that's what I hit. Yeah. But anyway, this is a recollection from the past, from the early 40s. I'm going to read it, if I may. This occurred during a Portland-Deering football game down at the stadium. Even though we may never know the why, in his youthful exuberance, the guest of honor attempted to burn down Fitzpatrick Stadium. And right there. We may only surmise that he was cold and needed a fire, or that Portland was behind and he couldn't stand it. Fortunately, Murphy's Law in reverse kicked in. The day was wet, and so were the newspapers he was using as a starter. They failed to ignite and only produced a small smudge fire with lots and lots of smoke. But as the only witness to this improbable and now laughable event, I've kept silent. I've never told a soul.
I was a witness to that because I was collecting bottles underneath and I'm the only other witness, right, Ed? Did you see me collecting bottles? Because I was working for Murphy's, selling peanuts and picking up bottles under. I'm sorry, Ed, but hey, listen. Nice job. Nice job, Ed.
My name's Bruce McAfee. Several weeks ago, I received a call from Dick Robbins regarding this great function. Dick had said it was going to be a roast. Tom Chard's great article referred to it as a testimonial. I guess we can do both. In addition to golf and other things, one thing Art Smith and I have in common is that we were both at Deering High School from '59 to '63. It's hard to believe Art was there then looking at his jet black hair. The rest of us have gotten gray hair. Art was a guidance counselor at Deering, and other than a few meetings about me being asked to leave study halls, etc., we did not meet too often for guidance. There was one big meeting that guidance counselors had to do with all students. He said, "What are your plans after high school?" I says, "College." He says, "Are you serious? You won't get into any college in New England." I was not happy when he told me to consider the military. Fast forward to October of 1986. A very successful real estate broker had asked me and my great friend and former business partner, Richard Goodine, to give a talk about the new complex 1986 tax law to his brokers, friends, and customers. Art told me to explain the law, leave time for questions, but make sure you're done by 8 o'clock as Roger Clemens is pitching against the Mets in the World Series. For whatever reason, Mr. Goodine was late for the talk, and when he finally got there, he sat in the back of the room. Probably the only time he let me down in our long, great relationship. I did tell a good-sized crowd that night that I was a CPA and a graduate of Bentley College, despite my guidance counselor's military recommendation. Time for the testimonial. When I think of Art Smith, the term work ethic and commitment come to mind. If a job needs doing, generally Art would do it on his own or volunteer when asked. A story from Art's Papudic days before he smartened up and joined Riverside dealt with someone throwing a club into the 17th hole pond. I would not have rewarded such a stupid move by disrobing and retrieving the club. Not Art. I don't know, nor do I want to know, what Art wore into the pond, infested with God knows what. But Art saw a job that needed doing, and he did it. We could all be better people to follow his examples. Finally, there's only one word to describe Art Smith: gentleman. I'm proud to call this gentleman my friend.
I come back with a sore throat. I can't get down today, so all in good sense. But for the first time, I've been 25 years with the Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm sure you all of you have been there. I've had to be up there all the time, and I said, it's great to be on the floor. I haven't got to say a word. And I told my wife, and she says, well, that'll be new. So anyway, on behalf of the people that come to the people that's here, the ones that are up there, I know the both of them, and I wouldn't want to look at anybody any better than them. So thank you very, very much. Yeah, thank you what you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. But everybody here, the people that know me, listen, thank you. I love you all. Good baseball. Don't forget the New York Yankees. I scouted with them for 37 years, and I loved every bit of it. And like you said, we're gonna be better next 2 or 3 or 4 years. We got some good kids. But thank you for the night. Thank you in the room. The faces that I've coached before and I haven't seen for 30 years. It's wonderful, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. I don't care what it is. I love you all. God bless you.
Art, Jack, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who that gentleman was, Sonny Noel is the general chairman of the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame and has been so for at least 25 years. Art Smith is, as is Jack Dawson, a proud member of that organization. It may be the largest sports organization in terms of the induction banquet that we have every year, and Sonny Noel is responsible in large part for its growth and its organization and its prestige among the Maine sports community. Art Smith, congratulations on this well-deserved tribute to your career and service to the Maine sports community. As a 1985 inductee, you've been a loyal friend and supporter of the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame for a long time. Your veteran presence on the selection committee has provided wisdom and judgment and that invaluable institutional memory that allows the committee to gauge whether a particular candidate could hit like Merv Kilgore or pitch like Jabba Joyce. But beyond that, Art, your ongoing contributions make you a part of the richly woven tapestry that is the Maine sports community. You, like many others who have competed before and after you on the baseball diamonds and football gridirons of this state, keep fresh and alive those mystic chords of memory that unify and strengthen the ties that bind Maine sports fans across the generations. Many of you know Jim Beaudry, who was inducted into the Maine Sports Legends, another sports organization, a couple of weeks ago. Jim is a Portland native son as well. And Jim's induction a couple of weeks ago prompted him to borrow a quote from the poet Edwin Markham to exemplify his philosophy of contributing to the common good through sports. And I think it's fitting to repeat it here in recognition of Art's contributions. There is a destiny that makes us brothers. None goes his own way alone. All that we have sent into the lives of others comes back into our own. On behalf of the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame, Art, thank you for all that you have sent into the lives of others. Congratulations.
I know one thing, this is an amateur hour. I've never heard so many great pros talking here. There's two or three others. We're saving Mr. Hawks for the encore, although Phil Condelmo looks like he's ready to show. Just want to say hello. Phil Condelmo. This man not only has written a book, you ought to get a hold, it's great, but he's done a lot, and I know he has great appreciation for Art, as well as the MC.
This is unbelievable. This should be a rose for Dick Robbins. I was in the 4th grade when he was in the senior high. I didn't see him play golf, football, baseball, or anything else, including fishing and hunting. I told him I really don't know that much about Art, other than to say he's one hell of a good guy. Thank you.
Tell him who you are.
I will. Hey everybody, I'm Doug Smith, Art's son. I was quite honored to be invited here tonight and wanted to talk a little bit about my father. Was anxious to look at the program, and you know, I was a little disappointed to find out that you're giving a testimonial for a guy whose life pretty much stopped in 1965. I mean, for the last 46 years, he's now spent his winters in Florida. That sums it up. So I thought maybe I could fill in a little bit more in what he did after that. Obviously, I didn't know him when he was the great sports star, the local sports star, and later you know, baseball, basketball, football. But I do know the benefits of sports and team sports, and that's that they teach you a character. They teach you sportsmanship, and those are the things, those are the benefits as a son that I received later on in life. Things like honesty. The work ethic that I have today definitely comes from my dad. How you treat people, the management side, definitely comes from my dad. So these are things that he instilled in all of us as kids and grandkids. And so I don't know him from the sports side. I know him from hunting and fishing. I know him from playing baseball in the backyard. I know him from being involved in my Little League and all the various things that I did. I know him from playing golf, you know, endlessly. And The guy never makes a mistake. He's just consistent. I'm trying to kill the ball every time. He's right down the middle. And that's pretty much sums up his life. Every time, it's right down the middle. So just very honored to be here today and recognize my dad for all that he's done. One of the other things that I wanted to mention was what a dedication to community service. One thing that he taught me was it's not enough to take. You have to give something back. You have to help those that are less fortunate. How many years in the Lions Club? 50. 50 years dedicated to the Lions Club, helping people. So for me, we're not just recognizing the man that was 20-something or younger in high school. We're recognizing a man that has left an incredible legacy of a big family and a role model on how to do it right. Thank you.
Well, I always said the greatest legacy that a parent gives a child is inner stability, confidence, and talent. I've seen it all there today, but we haven't seen quite enough, but it's great. That's a great legacy. Dads, to all you dads. And here's a gentleman here.
Dick?
Yes.
May I have permission to come forward?
Please. You can take 3 giant steps and 1 baby step.
As long as I don't fall on my butt.
I teach matter of balance, and I fall more than anybody I teach.
No, I'm making it.
You're doing well.
Thank you, Dick.
You're welcome.
My name is Gene Sturgeon. I'm one of the few Deeringites that were allowed to come here tonight. But here I am. And I want to tell you a quick story about how Art Smith ended up at Portland High School. When he was at Lincoln Junior, a group of the kids got together and said, we can make sure he goes to Deering. How do you do that? We'll teach him the words to the Deering fight song. You know how it goes. Be loyal to the purple, be loyal to the white, and so on. And so they did. And they got him ready for the school assembly, where he was going to be on the microphone before the audience singing the Deering song, and a sure bet to go to Deering. Well, they worked and worked, but they had 2 problems. One, Art had a lot of trouble remembering words over a period of time. And secondly, he had a lousy singing voice. Well, the day came, the audience was ready, Art stood up before the microphone, and the words came out of his mouth. Be loyal to the purple, be loyal, no. Wearers of the blue, we are proud of you, and expect every man to do his part. Well, that did it. The place was an uproar. Chairs were being thrown, tables were overturned, the student body was charging the stage, but they couldn't get there because the faculty held them off. But that really was the reason I had no choice but to go to Portland, as much as he'd like to have gone to Deering. And when the winds of fortune sail you, may you sail a gentle sea, and may you always be the first to say, hey Gene, this drink's on me. Vaya con Dios, mi amigo. Go with God, my friend.
Nobody feels as well as Gene. From the top of the deck, the guy he believes, like a lot of us, he taught me a lot. I got about 29, 30 role models in this building, along with great acquaintances and friends. But capacity, empathy, and loyalty to talk to this fellow on the phone, it was fabulous. But everyone I talked to, I couldn't believe how positive. I thought I was going to have a problem. No problem. Matter of fact, they wanted to send the money through the phone. I says, I don't have that kind of a machine going. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
My wife says I have the same problem, Artie. I can't remember and I can't sing. But my name is John Switzer, and Artie and I sort of grew up in the same neighborhood. I was from the south side, he was from the north side on Washburn Avenue, and I lived where the ice arena is now, where the greenhouses were attached right next to the Expo, if you remember. So unbeknownst to me, before I knew Artie, I guess we were both little stadium rats running around the Expo and the Oaks and the stadium during our youth, and fond memories. And I remember a lot of, Bat Boy for Andrews post with Sonny way back 100 years ago. But I thought there was one aspect of Art's life that might be overlooked here this afternoon that I wanted to bring forth. Just another testament of his, the great person that Art is. But I got involved with the Highland Memorial Cemetery about almost 20 years ago. Art had already been involved in it about 30 years. And at the time, when Art first got involved, it was in disrepair, was not being taken care of, no maintenance. The records were a mess. It was in financial trouble. And so over the years, Art worked up there as a volunteer with the Lions Club, and then subsequently established the Highland Memorial Cemetery Association, which he's now still president, has been for ever since it was formed 25 years ago, and now is one of the most up-and-coming, or is the up-and-coming cemetery in South Portland. Just a beautiful spot. If you haven't been there, it's on Highland Avenue. Drive by sometime. It's a real plus for the city of South Portland. And the other one that we probably overlooked, behind every good man is a good woman. I've gotten to know Barbara really well. I know from my background that I couldn't do it without my wife, and Art often speaks about the great support he gets from Barbara, and we sure appreciate it. She's a member of the cemetery board as well, the secretary, and between the two of them, it's great. And I've always learned that if you want to be a great tennis player, you ought to play with somebody better than you. If you want to be a good leader and you want to learn what service is all about, you ought to associate yourself with people who do that kind of thing. And I've considered Art a mentor all these years, and appreciate the example that he sets, because he is a doer and he gets things done. And I appreciate it, Art. I hope that we'll have many more years to serve together. Thanks for all of it. Appreciate it.
Can't call you a politician. Are you running for mayor?
No.
It's not too late?
Don't tell Art.
I won't tell him.
Okay.
I'll never squeal.
Hi, I'm Maxine Beecher, and I sit on the City Council in South Portland. Not that that's a big deal, except that if Art knows where you live, God help you. Meaning he's a giant of a man. And I live out in the countryside of South Portland, and when I see this little car come whipping in the yard, he drives fast, by the way. I want you to know that. And I look out and I think, oh, and there's this giant of a man who's getting out of this little tiny car, and he's heading for my door, and this, you'll all really get into this. You hear that knock on the door, and you go to the door and you say, what do you want, Art? Because the truth is, he's after something. He's not here to visit. No. He either needs a signature. I think the last time he arrived, he said, you don't know a trumpet player, do you? So we got this flag ceremony, and we kind of need a trumpet player for taps. I mean, the truth is, and I'm going to talk about one other thing that he's really, really good at. The city of South Portland owes him tremendous amounts of thanks. He sits on the Lions Club, and because I do a lot of substance abuse work, the Lions Club is, you always are knocking on their door, and you can count on Art to support whatever it is that's a good cause, and particularly if there's a kid involved. He's always there, and he's more than willing. But I have to tell you, you know, for all of you who brought your wallet today, make sure it's in your front pocket and that you're holding it down, because Art's also a hell of a fundraiser. And he remembers everybody's name, and he'll be knocking on your door for whatever his latest project is. So I would just say to you, you know, certainly the city owes him a tremendous amount of thanks. I mean, and the Lions Club does scholarships and general work, and certainly that cemetery is a real testament to his whole world, his whole life. But watch where your wallet is, because he's after it. He's not gone, folks. So just a little heads up. Thank you.
That you don't realize about the wallet and the money. He's afraid to ask for money. He still hasn't collected from Jay Richardson over there for the baseball advertising. And as far as the trumpet playing, why do you think he's got Jackie Dawson? Dawson's been studying and playing trumpet now for the last couple of years. So he's going to eliminate all the musicians here. Right or wrong? Mr. Cahill. Howland Avenue? No. Ashmore, oh yeah, okay. So, give me $1.50, yeah.
So, Arthur, Charlie Cahill is my name. The other Charlie Cahill. I see Sonny Noel over there, good friend of my father's. And Arthur, where's the roast? That's what I'm wondering about. I'm getting a little tired of this. I mean, listen, I was there at the Baseball Hall of Fame. I listened to what pitchers do in professional baseball. Now, it wasn't drinking, by the way, but there were a lot of little tricks. I've been working on those for some years, you know, with a ball and a coin. And then the Sports Hall of Fame, and here we are again, my goodness. But, well, Arthur and I have worked together on a number of projects over the years. But I go back to one night in February of 1961. I had a series of events. I was a senior at Deering High School. I was in the High Y Club, and Arthur was the advisor. He was also my guidance counselor, and he was also the starter at the Expo. Remember the Expo? They're not doing track there anymore, they say. Come on, come on! But I was running the 1,000, and we had a snowball that night, you know, the big dance of the year. And I get to the starting line at the 1,000, and Arthur says, listen, and he's very worried, you are going to have to run a really fast 1,000 and then keep going, because there's no decoration at the dance. It was very upsetting. Here you are at the beginning of a race. But I think I ran the fastest 1,000 that had ever been run at the Expo at that time. With that in mind, I literally kept going until I got to Deering High School, where my mother and I cut and hung snowflakes for the next 3 hours. It didn't come out badly, but then I had forgotten one minor thing at that dance, Art. Don Doan played with his, wonderful music, but I didn't have the money to pay Don. Now, I didn't realize at that time, I have a daughter who's a musician now. I didn't realize the musicians get paid that night, right? So I asked, Art, what I could do. Maybe I could give him a check. No, Arthur took care of me. He got the money himself, and he fronted the money, and so thank you so much for that, Arthur. But one final thing that night that I remember so well, I had a date. Susie Svensson was my date, and I talked to Arthur about dating and relationships, And he told me a very serious conversation. You may not remember it, but it was how there's a certain special relationship that we're all looking for, and that I would know when I found that relationship. So I'm happy to announce that Susie is my wife, and still my wife, and above all, most importantly, this is Barbara, and this is what I was talking about.
This guy needs an agent. Can you hear me? By the way, your father was one of the best handball players. Did you know he played handball?
I tried to beat him, couldn't touch him.
I was going to say, because you'd be telling a white lie. Not even Judge Bress could beat him. Now, where are we at this point? Aunt Tooch is giving me the finger. Yes.
Behind you.
Only me did.
Davey wins a prize from Come the Greatest Distance, and they live in Natick. His wife is here with him. But I think they're out in California when I spoke with them. And they had to be here. And this gentleman is from Natick.
Thank you, Dick.
One of the finest kind. Go get him. By the way, one thing. Eddie Valenti did give him a little roast. We own a discount you.
Thanks. My name's Dave Farrell, and I first met Ed when we were freshmen at Portland High School. That was back in 1944, and so I was with him for the 4 years in high school. So I knew a few stories, but seeing I'm limited to 3 minutes here, I'll try to pick the best one. And let me just say that our class knew that we had a special person in Art, and he turned out to be exactly that. And the story I'll pick out is the one that happened one day as we're going between classes, and the hallway was pretty filled with classmates. And this young, shy girl came up to him, and she had her hair in pigtails and all different colored ribbons in her hair and different colored socks on and one shoe and one sneaker. And what she was doing was she was being initiated into a sorority. And her job, and she was very shy, was to kneel down before Art and propose. Well, luckily, and to my advantage, I turned it down, and very politely. And so anyway, it was my turn that I'd want to thank God for turning her down, because as it turned out, next month we'll be celebrating our 59th year together. I always had that feeling that I was the second choice. I won't forget you for that, Art. But one other thing I'd like to say is, way back there in those days, we used to have one student athlete that stood out among all the rest, and that was in baseball, basketball, and football. And believe me, Art was right up there among the best. In our freshman year, I remember it was Charlie Bennett. Sophomore year was Andy Lano. In our junior year, it was Lenny Southworth. And in our senior year, it was Art Smith. And Art will always go down as being one of the best athletes ever to come out of Portland High School. So, in closing, I just want to wish you, Art, your lovely wife, Barbara, and your family many more years of happiness and good health. Thank you.
You know why? I was at a dance with him one night, a couple of years older, but I'm over in the corner standing, trying to get up enough courage to ask somebody to dance. What do you think? They played a lady's choice. And guess what happened?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, what? Tell me.
7 girls broke their ankle trying to get to you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'll get them on the road.
Okay, thank you.
Jimmy Nicholas, he's gonna do a job on you. Coach, he's gonna get you.
Jimmy.
For a while, I thought I was in the wrong place. For a while, I thought I was in the wrong place. I heard it was going to be a roasting, not a toasting. But anyway, just like others, I was approached by Dick to speak, and I said, "Why me? You must be desperate to ask me to come." He said, "Well, we are having a hard job getting some speakers about them, but I can see now that that's not true." Actually, Art and I have something in common. We were both class presidents. But I have a gripe. I heard that he got more votes than I did. And I think just because he was tall, good-looking, and a super athlete, what else did he have going for him? Recently, I was reading about his professional involvements. I don't know if you all know all of the things, but former president of the South Portland Board of Industry, president of the South Portland Chamber of Commerce, president of South Portland Lions Club, president of the Greater Portland Twilight League, president of the Portland Board of Realtors, president of Western Maine Umpires Association, district governor of Lions, former district governor of Portland MCA Board, former director of Maine Golf Hall of Fame, former director of Papuda Golf Club, and inducted in the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame, currently president of Highland Memorial Cemetery. I ask you, after 81 years, is that all you got to show for yourself? Now that you've heard about his good side, let's look at some of the things about his other side. In the 40s, you were witnessed by Dick Robbins for setting a small fire under the bleachers. Reason unknown. Is that right, Dick?
I can't remember. I was selling peanuts.
When you graduated from PHS, the other three classes were so happy. The teachers were in heaven, so was the janitor. It sounded good when I wrote it. I can remember reaching the high point in his life. That's the day his mother took him up to the Portland Observatory. When he was in high school, he made great strides in the field of education. He took them every time he would walk down the corridor every morning on the way to the John. Recently, a neighbor had to help him move a trash barrel. "Hi, do you need any help? I do work for food."
Mr. Savage.
Mr. Savage. I know the young kids are happy to see him, but all he does is look down on them. He thinks of himself as a jolly green giant. Finally, when you are roasting a turkey, you don't want a lot of bologna around. I probably could have dug up more plentiful dirt, but I want Artie to continue to nod when he sees me. Thank you.
Here's something that, this guy's pretty modest, all right? Class of 48, the yearbook, the totem. He's on 8 pages. 8 pages. Eat your heart out, Artie. But I remember going through the book, I'm seeing these, what is this? Nicholas, full picture, next page here. You're on every committee in school. Who's the principal in anyway? Mr. Reike or what? You had something going for you, pal.
Absolutely.
But anyway, how many people remember Artie Smith when he made... Welcome back, Sandy. How many remember Artie Smith when he was 298 pounds? Hold up your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boy, Weight Watchers did a hell of a job. By the way, in case you don't know, he owns Weight Watchers. Very modest. This guy's got more money than you can ever imagine. Keeps it all in brown bags in his garage. That's why the Savage fellow went over there to help him empty the trash. He figured he might get into the brown bags. Now, we have a couple more people that want to say something, I understand. Hold up your hand, please. I got a handkerchief unless you want to cry. Welcome aboard. This is not your captain. That's your captain up there. Please identify yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yep.
My name is Maury Hill, and Maury Smith Hill, and I'm the oldest of Art's brothers, Jack's children. So I just wanted to get up and tell you all we did go to Deering, all of us. I don't want to make any enemies here. But the other thing I did want to say is that my Uncle Art has been a real inspiration to all of us through the many years we've known him, obviously. I think the biggest thing I would want to say is that his mother and father would be so happy to see that he's being recognized in this way today, even though it's a semi-roast. The other thing I would say personally is that we've always felt that he has looked out for us. And even though he wasn't our father, he's always been concerned for us. And that's something that I think has been wonderful for us and very beneficial. The other thing I will tell us a little story about myself is that when I was a junior in high school, I had come from Wyndham, had transferred into Deering, and my Uncle Art was actually my guidance counselor. And he took a look at my records, and my transfer records, and I had done really well in everything else except math. And so he was like, you know, you really need to beef this up to get into college. And so he and my Aunt Barbara really made it possible for me to come and take care of 2 little children for the summer, and also go to summer school and get, take a course in algebra that made my algebra at Deering much easier, and I got a much better grade. So I, really have to thank my uncle to helping me look forward and making sure that I got to college. And 40 years later, I'm retired, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, I told him that story one day, and he was like, I don't remember that, but it was really important in my life. And I guess that's really it. The other thing I would say, and again, this is a personal story. My sisters certainly could, and brothers could certainly speak for themselves, but when I was a little girl, he had probably been the apple of his mom and dad's eye, as he was the youngest. And when I was born, he was about 16, and he was so gracious in terms of sort of letting me be the little princess, and he was sort of like a big brother. And I remember, doing things with him and really thinking, I'm so lucky to have a young adult who cares about me. So that's really all I wanted to say. I don't know if my sisters would like to say anything else, but thank you on behalf of our father, whom you always treated with such great respect and love. We really appreciate that.
I think I can speak for everyone that's here. Eddie Valenti said it pretty well to me one day. He said, this guy is noble. I can't think of a better word. Extremely noble. Is there anyone else that would like to share this microphone with me? Mr. Hawks?
No.
Oh, Mr. S. George. 93 years young. He told me we never use the word old. It's either chronologically superior or chronologically advanced. This guy is all three.
Only 92, I should say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I've been listening to all of these sports stories, and that's something that I miss because I didn't move to Maine until 1955, and I got to know Artie, I think, early on at the YMCA. And that, to me, was a great experience. And since that time, I've been following all the things that he is involved in the community, which I think is equally important to every one of us. And I think that maybe he has done more than most of us here in that regard. But Artie was on the board at the Y for 13 years. I think I was on for 18, but I can remember vividly the fun we had with Jack Malcolm and Cliff Blake. And our friend Jack Dawson was there showing us how to play volleyball. I can remember that too. And so I don't want to repeat all the things that have been said here about his involvement in the outside community. But one of the things that I do recall vividly is his election to the district governor's job of Lyons back in 1975, I believe, where he was a leader of 41L and covered a territory from Kittery to Mexico along the New Hampshire border, and then from Mexico to Freeport and down the coast back to Kittery and all of these cities and towns in between. It was his obligation to meet and greet people and did a marvelous job. And then we had what we called a multiple district, which brought him in touch with the other two main districts, the provinces of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland. So he was carrying the message for all of us from Maine and made many friends for all of us. I think, Artie, that the greatest thing that I enjoyed with you was playing golf, and that would be my contribution to your sports career because I didn't know anything about it beforehand. But God bless you, and I'm delighted to be your friend and Barbara's friend. Good luck to you, Paul.
I carry doubles for these two guys. I got $1.50 from each of them. Not bad for, for a guy who couldn't lift his arms over his head until 6 weeks ago, who still shoots his age in golf. That's amazing. And having a trumpet player, we put a lot of people out of business today. Where's the walkout card? Where are you? Are you ready?
Yes. I'm going to go up there on the podium
I hope so.
because I want to be near Art.
Don't forget, I'm your...
My name is Al Hawks, and I'm a friend, I believe, of Art's. Now, when Dick called me, he said, you're only going to have a little bit of time, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And I got here and he said, you have 3 minutes. So you want to see me shred this real fast. I'm prepared. Actually, I only had an envelope full of data about Art. But then I said, I got to reduce it. Let's see, Art Smith is a nice guy. Well, not that. The other side of Art Smith, are there any ladies here? No, we can't use that. Art Smith is a real gentleman. Maybe we can cover that later. You've done that pretty well. Art Smith is a strange person now. There's something I can deal with hunting. And my experiences with art came from Deering High School, because he was a teacher there. My father was a teacher there. And my father and he became friends, and of course as friends, the first thing that comes up is, are you a hunter? And Art says, I'm every kind of a hunter you ever want to know about. And my father said, we'll take him up to camp and we'll figure that out pretty quick. But the teachers, there were a lot of teachers. My father got involved in hunting. There was Hughes Tibbetts, remember that? Carol Bean, the deaf hunter. Boy, he could see a deer, he'd get it, but he was deaf. I almost died because at the camp I was surrounded as a teenager by all teachers. Can you imagine what that would have been as a teenager, going hunting with all teachers? You know that Maine has a hunting season that churns out about 170 hunters each year. They're normal, everyday hunters. But then there's a hunter named Arthur Smith. He's quite different. Art is a gung-ho hunter. Just look at his name. Have you ever taken his name and just looked at what the letters in the name really spell out? It's Arthur, A-R-T-H-U-R. But the A is always, the R is ready, the T is to, H is hunt. We gotta cheat a little bit here. The U is, we'll just say U, and the R is right. That's Arthur Smith, the great hunter. He finally built a hunting camp just below our hunting camp that he used to come with my father. Ours is a modest two-room camp. His is a big camp. It's almost as big as a football field, isn't it? And it's a Taj Mahal, that's what it is. Has mounted heads. If you go in the front door, there's heads of animals and racks up there. But these animals are different. You might see a rabbit with a miniature deer horns on the head. You might see, there's all kinds. Doug, you know about those, don't you?
Raccoon with antlers.
Yeah. There's some hunters that come up that we've invited up. Art has invited up to come in. They come in the front door, they take one look at all the mounted things up there, and they say, no way, and out they go. Art says we just have to kill these strange animals around the camp so we can get out here to the deer. Well, as a hunter, he's a military type of a hunter. He plans day and night, all year long, for the hunt. Right, Art? He has notes, pads of notes, how it's going to work. He calls me at our camp up above on a two-way radio, usually at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and says, Al, you got to get up at 6 o'clock. I said, it's not 6 o'clock yet. Well, I'm calling to remind you, you got to get up at 6 o'clock. That's the way that starts out. I heard him say one time, he never was lost in the woods. Never. I heard him say once, I'm not lost on the two-way radios. I just don't know where you are. I was right behind him. He reminds me of the story of Daniel Boone, who once said, I had never been lost, only bewildered. Art told me once he was writing a book on being lost. I asked him, how was it coming? He said, I don't know. I've misplaced it, I can't find it, it's lost. We had some hunters that come up and they're new to the area, they're not familiar with the territory. And Art will give them instructions like, come down this road with me. He gets them down there and he says, you go off here about 100 yards, you'll find a sawdust pile. And when you get to the sawdust pile, just wait, and I'll come around the other side and come towards you. Well, the sawdust pile was probably 30 years old, decayed, disappeared. We've never seen that hunter again because the sawdust pile wasn't there. Something you may not be aware of, and this is kind of hidden information that probably Art doesn't want me to tell, but I kind of dug it. He has a secret desire to become a country music singer. You know, play guitar, write songs. You people, anybody in here like country music? Very good. Well, there's 3 of you. And he's actually written some songs. And I was able to get a copy that he left exposed in the camp. Found this list. And I thought I'd just run over some of the songs that he's written. They're kind of interested, and there's some potential here. If the phone don't ring, you know it's me. How can I miss you if you won't go away? I like that one. I liked you better before I got to know you so well. I wouldn't take her to a dog fight because I'm afraid she'd win. These have got potential. I'm so miserable without you, it's like having you here. Oh, this is a hunting one. If I had shot you when I wanted to, I'd be out of prison by now. My wife ran off with the best friend. I sure do miss him. You're the reason our kids are so ugly. Sorry about her. Her teeth were stained, but her heart was pure. She's looking better after every beer. Well, the real song that I think has got potential, could be a real hit. If my nose was made of money, I'd blow it all on you. Actually, I want to come true. Art's been a big influence on me, knowing his stamina, his desire to help people, be involved in projects, see them fulfilled. Whether it's hunting, or as you people have mentioned, all the organizations he's been in, it takes a lot of fortitude, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of planning, it takes leadership. So I'm not going to throw this paper away, because it's what I really mean. Art Smith is one hell of a nice guy. Always helping people with as many projects, will always go out of his way to lend a hand to his many friends. I'm glad I was able to be one of his friends through all these years. Thank you, Mr. Harper.
Thank you, Arthur. You know, Dick Robbins has worked hard to put this together. But I want to tell you, as I sit here and I watch him function, how I first knew him. It was about the time I first was aware of Art Smith. And an aunt took me to a movie called Men of Boys Town. You may remember it, it's our generation. And it was about Father Flanagan at Boys Town. And the main character, I think Father Flanagan was Barry Fitzgerald, but the main juvenile character was Mickey Rooney. And Mickey Rooney was a ragtag ruffian who was taken into Boys Town and became a nice young man. When I came home and my mother said, "What was the movie about?" And I said, told her. And then I said, you know, but this guy reminds me so much of a kid that I just got to know a little while ago. And she said, what was his name? And I said, his name is Dickie Robbins. And she said, well, I don't want to ever hear that name again, because if he is like Mickey Rooney was in that movie, you stay away from him. And, you know, I think you can see why my mother said that. If you've known Dickie Robbins, was always around Dickie, there was excitement, which usually led to trouble. So if you get away before the trouble started, Dickie was a good guy to be around. So I want to move this along before the trouble starts here this afternoon. It's time to introduce Art Smith to you. We've heard a lot about him. We know a lot about him. This is his day. This is his moment. And he just said to me, when I get up to speak, I want you to sit on the chair on the end of the table. Now, obviously he's a strange guy, and I know there's things about all of us we kind of wonder about. But for some, he's the quarterback now, and he's directing me out on the to be a wide something or other. So that's where I'll be, and I have no idea why. And so this is Art Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Now, if anybody can't hear me, please raise your hand up in the back aisle so I don't drift away. I do thank you all for coming. It's a wonderful thing. I hope it happens to all of you at some time in your life. This was not my idea. This was Dick Robbins. And if any of you know Dick Robbins, he's a very aggressive, persuasive, and I think it was 5 years ago he started telling me, I got to do a testimonial for you. And I said, look, Dick, I've had enough recognition in all the areas that I've served. But anyway, he was persistent, and finally, the time. But Dick Robbins used to sell AAA memberships for the American Automobile Association. Probably the most successful salesman, and you can see why, in New England. Now, he has another business. He works for Richardson Monument and sells monuments for golf course tees. On anybody that plays golf, you know, there's a monument there that tells the distances and what tee to use for different abilities. And that's what he does now. I'm sure it's, to him it's a part-time job, but I'm sure it's a very valuable service to golf courses all over the country. It's hard. I've had to rewrite the speech because where do I go from here after all the remarks that you people have made? As I think back, I have walked through a lot of different paths. I mean, from education to real estate to education administration. The number of friends that you gain in those areas is tremendous. And then there's the other walks of life of service to the community. You know, in real estate, I've made more presentations to city councils and planning boards and zoning boards all over Western Maine, because you never know where you need to do those things. It depends where the lot shows up or where the construction shows up. But I never had a problem with any of them. None of them ever mistreated me as they do some clients. Sometimes they're pretty hard to deal with. But and the South Portland City Council and planning boards, and in fact I got a planning board presentation coming right up because we're trying to build a garage at the cemetery. And as Maxine said, I am looking for money. We're on a campaign now for $90,000 to build a garage. We have a long-term range of building a chapel on the cemetery, which will take $1 million to do. And I hope I'm still around when that's accomplished. But those are things in the future.
When I think about the days of growing up on Washburn Avenue, I can even go back before that to Gene Sturgeon, because I lived on Fessenden Street and Gene lived on Pitt Street, and we associated and got together as kids. But then later, the next year, I went to Washburn Avenue, and the neighborhood of Payson Street and Roberts Street, the playground was the stadium. That we used to go down there, Johnny Media can recall it, playing fly-in with the neighborhood kid Lloyd Boynton, who many of you might know, Joe Connery, Tommy Conley, the Rizzo brothers. It was a great ride. I was the youngest guy in the group, and they all treated me good. For some reason, somewhere along, all the way through, I always played with guys or associated with guys that were older than me. Even when I used to hang around up on Congress Street, on the corner of Oak and Congress, all the guys, Oscar Emergent, Tony Hopkins, Johnny Meter, Louis Waugh, Wally Waugh, they were all, most of them were all older than me. But they always took care of me, looked after me. On to Deering, Stan Ladd and I were always good friends. We played against each other. It was like in the future, after high school, I became very close with Sonny Conley. And we played a lot of basketball together. But then, so that was the time as a kid in the stadium. And then, of course, the playing days of high school started. And I was playing football and baseball in the stadium and playing basketball in the expo. And then after high school, it was playing with the Sagamores, 1 year with the Sagamores. I coached the Seahawks 1 year. I was playing basketball and traveling with Ray Bicknell all over Western Maine. At Bridgeton, we get $5 to go to Bridgeton to play for the town team in Bridgeton at the time. I used to get $5 to go on down and play for Kenny Monk. Playing basketball at the Y, my left wrist. On the way to spring training, I took the cast off, and I went through spring training, and they released me because I just couldn't catch the ball. I come home, played that summer for the Auburn Aces, and then the Phillies had a tryout in the stadium. I went there and had a good appearance. Captains who loved the sport, and that's what it took. It took a person like Bernal Allen who loved baseball, created the Auburn Aces, when he moved to South Portland and became manager here, he created the Phil Perino, Bernie Stead, just a nice experience. I never heard Carol Huntress or Gordon Pendleton swear.